Jace Morgan floated high above the dead moon's surface, fixing a broken relay antenna. The moon, named Vorax 9, was cold, silent, and long abandoned. The sky above was full of stars, but the ground below held only dust, broken metal, and forgotten history. Jace was a human mechanic working with a salvage crew called the Rust Runners. Their job was to explore old planets, find working tech, and sell it. Today's job was supposed to be easy. Fix the antenna, log the data, leave. But then he felt something. Not a sound, not a voice, but a feeling. A whisper that touched his mind like a soft wind. Help, please. He blinked inside his helmet, confused. Did someone say that? He asked, switching his comms to open channel. No answer. He looked around. His crew was still on the ship orbiting above. He was the only one on the surface. Again the whisper came. Stronger now. I'm here. Please don't leave me. Jace's heart raced. He wasn't scared, but something pulled him forward. Below the antenna, the scanner had picked up strange signals, weak energy, no life signs. But now, he wasn't so sure. He messaged the ship. Captain, I'm going to check a signal underground, just a few minutes. The captain sighed. Make it quick, Jace. We're not here for ghost stories. Jace climbed down into a broken tunnel, his boots crunching old rock and ice. The air was freezing. Lights on his helmet scanned the darkness. The walls were part natural cave, part metal. An old mining station, half-built and long forgotten. He walked slowly. The feeling grew stronger with each step. Then he saw it. A pod, small, metallic, and covered in frost. Half buried under rubble. Lights blinked weakly on its surface. And inside, a girl. She looked young, maybe 17 in human years. Her skin was pale blue. Her long silver hair floated in the cold mist. Her eyes were closed, but her lips trembled. Suddenly, her eyes opened. Bright violet eyes locked with his. She didn't move, but Jace felt her scream in his head. Please, help me. I'm dying. He stumbled back, shocked. It was real, not a dream. She was speaking to him, without words. Telepathy. Hold on, he said aloud, even though she couldn't hear his voice. He knelt beside the pod. The control panel was old and cracked, written in alien symbols. But Jace was a mechanic. Symbols didn't matter, he knew tech. The life support was failing. Oxygen low, heat gone, power fading fast. He pulled tools from his belt and began working. Minutes passed. His hands shook, not from fear, but from the cold. Ice formed on his gloves. His breath fogged the helmet, but he didn't stop. Inside the pod, the girl's hand pressed weakly against the glass. Please. Her voice echoed in his thoughts. The final wire clicked into place. The pod hissed. The frost began to melt. Heat returned slowly. A weak oxygen light blinked green. Her breathing eased. Her eyes never left him. She whispered again in his mind. You're human? You can hear me? Jace nodded slowly. Yeah, I hear you. Don't worry. I won't leave you. His communicator beeped. Jace, your vitals are dropping. Get back here now. He looked back at the pod. He couldn't leave her. Not after hearing that cry. I found someone, he replied. She's alive. She needs help. Silence on the other end. Then, Jace, there's no life down there. Are you feeling all right? Jace stared into the girl's eyes. Her fingers touched the glass again. She was real. She was here. And only he could hear her. He took a deep breath. I'm bringing her with me. He placed his hand on the pod's release. Metal groaned. Steam rose. The pod opened with a slow hiss. The alien girl gasped. She was weak, barely able to lift her head, but she reached toward him, her fingers trembling. Jace took her hand gently. Don't worry, he said softly. You're not alone anymore. The cold wind howled through the underground tunnels as Jace carried the alien girl in his arms. Her skin was like ice, her body weak, but her eyes stayed open, watching him, trusting him. Every few steps, her voice whispered in his mind. They left me here. They wanted me to disappear. The tunnels below the surface of Vorax 9 were deeper than Jace had thought. The mine had collapsed in many places, making it dangerous to move fast. Old machines stood like skeletons, rusted and broken. Some still blinked with power, casting eerie lights across the narrow walls. He turned, on his wrist lamp. The shadows twisted. He had only one goal: get her back to his shuttle. But the deeper he moved, the more he realized something strange. This place wasn't just abandoned, it had been sealed. Large metal doors had been welded shut from the outside. Symbols scratched into the walls looked like warnings, not words but signs, circles crossed with jagged lines like someone wanted to keep something inside. Why would anyone bury someone alive? He wondered out loud. Leah, the alien girl, suddenly gripped his jacket. Her voice echoed in his head again. They were afraid of me, afraid of what I could do. Jace stopped walking. What do you mean? He asked softly. But she was slipping again. Her eyelids drooped. Her body trembled. The warmth from the pod had faded. She was losing strength fast. Jace looked around desperately. He needed shelter, a working power source. Something. Then he saw it, a side door partly open. Inside was an old rest chamber. It had an emergency heater still glowing red. Perfect, he whispered. He carried her inside and gently laid her on a padded seat. The heater buzzed softly, pushing out weak warmth. Jace pulled a thermal blanket from his bag and wrapped it around her. Her skin twitched and her breathing steadied. Her eyes opened again. You don't feel fear. Like the others, she said in his thoughts. I'm too stupid to be scared, Jace joked with a tired smile. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed from the tunnel outside. Jace froze. He stood, drawing his sidearm from his belt. He turned off the heater light and waited. Silence followed. But then, another clang. Closer this time. Something was moving in the dark. He crouched low and listened. It wasn't footsteps. It was something mechanical, sharp, rhythmic. Clang, clang, clang. He looked back at Leah. Her eyes were wide with fear. They're coming. The keepers, she said in his mind. Who? The ones who guard the prison. They're not alive. Not anymore. Jace's grip tightened on his weapon. Then we're getting out. Now. He picked her up again and left the warm room behind. The heater had given her a little strength, but it also made them easy to find. The sound of the mechanical clanging followed them, always just out of sight. As Jace moved through the tunnels, strange lights flickered on walls. Motion sensors, traps. He didn't know, but Leah began to guide him. She pointed weakly. Left here. Right there. Up the old lift shaft, and then an old cargo ramp. The surface light glowed at the top, almost there. But the clanging sound stopped, and that was worse. Silence. Jace turned to look behind him, and saw it. A tall, spider-like machine with glowing red eyes crawled from the shadows. Its legs were blades. Its face looked like a metal skull. It hissed. Go! Jace shouted, sprinting. Up the ramp. The machine chased them, sharp legs digging into the walls. Leah's eyes burned with light. She reached a hand toward the creature. Suddenly, the machine stopped. Smoke burst from its joints. Sparks flew. It screamed in a strange, digital voice and fell, twitching. Jace stopped at the top of the ramp, shocked. He looked down at her. Did you do that? Leah nodded slowly. I made it sleep. But more will come. We must leave this place. Jace reached his shuttle. He opened the hatch and climbed inside, laying her on a soft bench. The engines powered up, humming, with life. He sat beside her, catching his breath. Who are you, really? He asked. She looked at him, sadness deep in her glowing eyes. The last of the Echo-born. and you're the only one who can still hear me." The shuttle doors hissed shut behind Jace. Steam rose from the vents as the engines warmed up. The alien girl, Leia, lay on the bench beside him, wrapped in his spare jacket. Her silver hair shimmered faintly under the cockpit lights, and her violet eyes stayed half open, watching. Jace sat in the pilot's seat, hands shaking as he tried to stabilize the ship's systems. "We're going home," he muttered, but deep in his mind, her voice whispered again. "You can't take me to. Your crew. They won't understand. They'll hand me over." Jace frowned. She was right. His captain didn't trust aliens, especially ones with unknown powers. Jace had broken orders just by helping her. If he took her back to the main ship, they'd probably lock her up, or worse. Still, the ship's power core blinked red. Fuels. Low, he said aloud. Not enough to reach orbit. Outside the shuttle window, a storm of dust had started to rise from the tunnels. The ground rumbled. Cracks spread across the frozen walls of the cavern. A low humming noise filled the air. Jace turned to Leah. "What's happening?" She sat up slowly, pain in her every movement. "The system knows I'm awake now. It's trying to collapse the mine. Bury me again." The metal ceiling groaned as rocks began to fall. Jace didn't wait. He fired the engines and launched the shuttle forward, not straight up but through a horizontal emergency exit tunnel, barely wide enough for the small craft. The walls were close. Sparks flew as metal scraped on metal. The AI system of the mine activated more Guardians, hovering drones with sharp wings and red scanners. They flew toward the shuttle like angry bees. "Hang on!" Jace shouted. He swerved left, dodging a blast. One drone hit the side of the ship and exploded. Alarm screamed. Leah covered her ears, crying out as if the machine's signals hurt her mind. "Are you okay?" Jace asked, glancing back. "They scream in my head. They want silence. They want me to disappear again." Jace gritted his teeth. "Not happening." He tapped into the ship's manual override and activated the defense turrets. The shuttle fired 2 short blasts, destroying another drone, but more were coming. The tunnel curved up sharply toward a ventilation shaft that led to the surface. "If we can make that climb, we're out," Jace said. The shaft was steep and narrow. The ship's engines roared as it pushed upward. The walls shook. More drones poured in behind them, cutting the air with high-pitched screeches. Suddenly, Leah stood. Her hands trembled as she reached for the front of the ship. "Let me help. I can hold them off in just for a moment." "What? No, stay down!" Jace yelled, but her eyes were glowing now, fully violet, bright as stars. Her voice, though soft, filled the cabin like a storm. "I was born to protect. Let me do this." She opened the back hatch. Wind and dust rushed in. Jace screamed, "Leia!" But she stood firm, her hair flying wildly. She raised both hands and the space behind them lit up. The drones froze mid-air. Then, boom! A psychic shockwave burst out like thunder. The drones shattered in pieces, falling like metal rain. Leah collapsed. Jace closed the hatch fast and caught her before she hit the floor. "Don't ever do that again," he said, holding her tightly. Her breathing was weak, but she smiled faintly. "We made it. Right?" Jace looked out the front window. They had burst through the top of the shaft. Sunlight touched the shuttle for the first time. Blue sky, fresh air, freedom. He activated the beacon for pickup. But as he held Leah in his arms, he realized something. Her voice in his mind was growing fainter. "Leah, stay with me. Hey, talk to me." She opened her eyes a little. "You heard me, when no one else could. That's why I waited, all these years." Then her head fell back. Her body went still. "Leah." Jace checked. Her vitals. Faint pulse. Very weak. She was alive, but barely. And the real danger hadn't even begun. Far above, in deep space, someone had received her signal. Someone who would stop at nothing to silence her forever. Jace sat inside the medical pod of his mothership, staring at the small window that looked into the med bay. Behind the glass, Leah floated in a healing, Gel chamber. Her eyes were closed. Her body looked peaceful. But the machines told a different story. She was fading. He had saved her from the mine. He had risked his life. But now, she was slipping away. The door behind him slid open. Captain Varen entered, arms crossed, face cold. "You brought an alien girl on board." "Without clearance," the captain said sharply. "You disobeyed orders." Jace didn't move. "She would have died if I hadn't." Varen scoffed. "That thing could be dangerous. We don't even know what she is." Jace turned slowly. "She's not a thing. Her name is Leah, and she speaks through her mind. She trusted me." Varen stepped closer. "And now she's unconscious. How convenient. I've already sent her DNA scans to Central Command. They'll want answers." Jace stood up. "She's not a weapon. She's a survivor. And she has something to say, something someone didn't want us to hear." Before the captain could argue, a soft hum filled the air. It came from the chamber. Leah's eyes had opened, just a little. The healing gel glowed brighter. And then, a voice. Not from speakers, not from lips, from everywhere. "You're not safe." Everyone in the room froze. The voice was female, calm, and carried across minds like wind through leaves. "They heard me. They're coming." Jace rushed to the window. "Leah, can you hear me?" Her lips did not move, but the voice answered again. "They don't want the truth spoken. My people had the memory of a war, one that never made it into your books. We knew a secret, one that could unmake lies and end control." Varen's face turned pale. "What is this? Some kind of illusion?" Suddenly the ship's lights flickered. A loud alarm rang. "Incoming ship detected, unknown origin. Armaments active." Jace and Varen ran to the bridge. Outside the window, a dark vessel emerged from the clouds of space. Sleek, silent, its hull reflected. No light, as if space itself tried to forget it. No registration, no signal, no faction colors, the pilot reported. It just appeared, and then it spoke. A cold message crackling through the comms. "Surrender the Echo-born, or be erased." The bridge went silent. Varen turned to Jace. "What the hell? Did you bring onto my ship?" Jace whispered. The last voice of a truth they've buried for centuries. Back in the medbay, Leah began to glow. Not just her skin, but the chamber around her. The lights shimmered with memory. Jace returned to her side. She was awake now, barely, but her eyes locked on his. "They used to be human," she said weakly in his mind. "Once, long ago. But power changed them. They became something else. Cold, silent hunters of knowledge." "Why you?" Jace asked softly. "Because I remember. Because I speak." Jace touched the glass. "I'll protect you." Suddenly another voice joined them. Not in the mind, from the ship's speakers. "This is Commander Reth of the Silent Order. Return the girl, or we open fire." Varen paced. "We can't fight them. They're ghosts. My crew won't survive." Jace stood firm. "Then let me take her. I'll lead them away. She doesn't belong here anymore." Varen hesitated. "You're a fool, Morgan." "Maybe," Jace said, "but at least I can hear her." The captain nodded slowly. "You have 10 minutes, then I lock down the ship." Jace ran to the hangar. He prepped a small scout craft and loaded Leah, still weak, into the back seat. The engines roared to life. The black ship outside began to move. Its cannons lit up, and Jace punched the thrusters. They soared into space, chased by shadows, guided by the only voice brave enough to speak. The scout ship raced through a belt of broken moons and shattered ice. Behind it, the dark vessel of the Silent Order followed without making a sound. No comms, no lights, just cold precision. Their cannons hummed with energy, ready to fire. Inside, the tiny cockpit, Jace tightened his grip on the controls. "We're not going to outrun them for long." Behind him, Leia lay still in her seat. Her skin had lost its glow. Her breathing was shallow, but then, her fingers twitched. And without warning, her voice entered his mind clearer than ever before. "Don't run. Turn toward the ice moon ahead, I'll guide you. Jace flinched. That's a dead world? No, there's something there. A place my ancestors used long ago. A mind temple. I can connect, but only if we get close. He didn't understand. It not fully, but he trusted her. Jace spun the ship sharply, flying into the ice moon's low orbit. The Order's ship adjusted course, following. Red lights blinked on their wings. The first warning shot was fired. A plasma bolt that grazed. The scout ship's engines holed together. Come on, baby, Jace whispered to the ship. Below, sharp ice peaks stabbed out of the moon's surface like frozen teeth. Between them, an ancient structure, half buried in snow, a tower of white crystal. Leah's voice returned, weaker now. Land. Me there, I can show you everything if you're willing to see. Jace brought the ship down rough, skidding through the snow and ice until it hit a hard stop. The moment the engines cooled, he grabbed Leah in his arms and ran toward the crystal tower. The doors opened by themselves. Inside, everything was glowing. Walls, air, even the floor. The silence felt heavy, but welcoming. He laid Leah down in the center of a glowing circle. Symbols lit up beneath her body. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Then, her eyes opened. But they were no longer violet. They were white, filled with light. This place. It remembers me, she said aloud for the first time. Her voice real, trembling beautiful. Jace stepped back. You can talk now? She stood, barefoot in the snow-misted light, and nodded. The temple has awakened my full link. You're inside it too. That's why you can hear me. Suddenly, Jace's head throbbed visions, explosions in space. Planets burned. Fleets turned to ash. Cities wiped from memory. And then, them. The Silent Order, cloaked in black, feeding on knowledge, erasing anything that spoke against them. They weren't always monsters, Leah said softly. They were scholars, historians. But they found a memory too powerful, an idea that couldn't be controlled. So they erased it. They erased us. Jace dropped to his knees, overwhelmed. Why show me this? She knelt beside him, her glowing hand touching his cheek. Because you're the only one left who hears my voice clearly. Your mind is open. Your soul isn't afraid of truth. Outside, the black ship landed. Figures in silver masks stepped out. Tall, faceless, silent. Leah's light began to fade again. They're here, Jace said, rising to his feet. Leah looked up, eyes still, bright. Then let's speak together. Their minds linked. Not just words, but memories, emotions, pain, and hope. Jace saw Leah as a child, hiding in the ruins while her world burned. He saw her people holding hands, singing across the stars. He saw her cry when they locked her in, the pod, and whisper to the dark, hoping someone would hear. And she saw him, lost on Earth, rejected, alone. Until the stars gave him purpose. Their souls touched. One voice, two minds. Outside the temple, the Silent Order approached the door. Inside, Jace and Leah stood as one. The crystal walls pulsed. The light grew, and the truth began to shine. The crystal temple pulsed like a living heart. Jace stood with Leah at the center, their minds still linked. His breathing was shallow, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what he had seen through her memories. Truth, secrets, ancient betrayals. Her people had been wiped out not with weapons, but with silence. Outside, the wind howled. The Silent Order had arrived. Dark shapes moved through the snow, tall figures cloaked in black wearing silver masks that reflected no light. They didn't speak. They never did. They communicated only with orders, signals, and death. Inside the temple, the glowing walls began to dim. Leah staggered. Their presence, it weakens the link, she said quietly. They carry a field that cuts off memory. Even the temple struggles to fight it. Jace helped her stand. Then we stopped them before they reached the door. She shook her head. We don't fight them with guns, they've forgotten feeling. But not everything is forgotten. The temple shifted around them, panels sliding open, symbols glowing, an ancient room revealed itself. In the center was a pedestal, and on it sat a crystal sphere filled with swirling light. Leia approached it with reverence. This is the Heart Echo. It holds the final memory of my people, our voices, our songs, everything we once were. Jace watched as her hand hovered over it. If I use it, she whispered, they will hear what they tried to erase. And it may destroy them, or me. Before Jace could speak, the ground shook. The silent order had reached the outer doors. Heavy footsteps echoed like thunder. The crystal walls cracked under pressure. They're breaking in, Jace shouted. He ran to the entrance and drew his sidearm. Not that it would help against them, but it made him feel less helpless. The door burst open. 3 masked figures stepped in. They moved without sound. Their armor shimmered with anti-energy, a force that swallowed light. One of them raised a device and pointed it at Leia. A silence field. A glowing orb designed to erase psychic waves. Jace stepped in front of her. No, he growled. You're not taking her. But the order didn't care. One raised a stun cannon. Suddenly, light exploded from behind Jace. A sound filled the temple, not from a speaker, not from a machine. It was music. Beautiful, strange, haunting music, made of voices and stars and echoes of life long lost. Leia had touched the Heart Echo. The silent order froze. Their masks trembled. The silence field shattered. And then something impossible happened. One of them fell to his knees. His mask cracked. Behind it was a face, human, old, tired, and crying. Leia stepped forward. Her voice echoed not in just Jace's mind, but in every mind. You were once like us. You sang. You felt. You dreamed. You loved. The second figure dropped his weapon. The third turned and fled. Jace stood in shock. What's happening? Leia's body shone like a star now, but she was trembling. The Heart Echo. It doesn't just hold memory. It shares it. It reminds even the lost who they used to be. But her strength was fading. Fast, Jace ran to catch her as she fell. Leia, hold on! The 2 Order soldiers still standing, now unmasked, approached carefully. One of them knelt beside her. We forgot. We were made to forget. But her voice brought it back. The temple began to dim again. The Heart Echo stopped glowing. Jace held Leia close. She opened her eyes weakly. Did they hear me? He nodded. Yeah. Loud and clear. She smiled. And then, her light faded. Not death, but sleep, deep and peaceful. The 2 men helped Jace carry her back to the shuttle. There, ship, the dark vessel of the Order, remained still, silent and no longer chasing. The silence had been broken. The stars looked different now. Jace stood at the edge of the observation deck, watching the infinite black sea beyond the ship's windows. His hands rested on the glass. Behind him, the soft hum of the engines was the only sound. Peaceful, gentle, and calm. The warship of the Silent Order no longer followed. It hovered in orbit around the ice moon like a statue. Its cannons were off. Its purpose had changed, because one girl had made them remember, because he had listened. Leia slept quietly in the med bay, her body wrapped in glowing threads of the Heart Echo's energy. Her pulse was steady. Her mind was silent. But Jace could still feel her presence like a warm thought sitting beside his own. The door slid open behind him. Captain Varen stepped in, expression unreadable. We received a message, Varen said, from the Order. Jace turned slowly. They speak now? Varen nodded, holding up a small data crystal. They said 3 words. We remember now. Jace took a breath. That's all she wanted. Not revenge, not power, just to be heard. Varen looked at the stars. We've been at war so long I forgot what peace looked like. He glanced at Jace. And you? What will you do now? Jace looked toward the medbay where Leah rested. I go where she goes. Varen smirked. Of course you do. 1 week later, Leia stood at the edge of a galactic council chamber. Alive, radiant, no longer hidden in fear. The heart echo hovered beside her, its light dancing. Jace stood next to her, in formal pilot gear, but without any weapon. The council room was filled, with species from across the galaxy. Humans, insectoids, silicon-born, telepaths, biodrifters. All had come, drawn by the signal. A signal that had traveled faster than light. A memory they could not ignore. Leah took a step forward. Her voice, once only heard by Jace, now echoed in every corner of the hall. I was buried for 1,000 years. My people erased, my language forbidden, but one human, just one, heard me. She turned and looked at Jace. He didn't see an alien. He saw someone crying. Gasps rippled across the room, not out of shock but emotion. She continued. The Silent Order is not our enemy. They are our warning. Silence is the weapon. Memory is the defense. She raised her hand and projected a memory from the heart echo. Laughter, dances, stars, once full of light. The council members stood in awe. No one spoke, until a young alien girl, barely old enough to walk, walked up to Leah and touched her hand. I hear you, the child said, and Leah smiled, tears falling. Later, aboard the scout ship, Jace and Leah sat under a simulated starlight sky on the viewing deck. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You gave me more than rescue, she whispered. You gave me back my voice. Jace smiled. You gave me a reason to care again. They sat in silence, not the empty kind, but the full kind. A silence that held peace, not fear. The stars outside blinked. The galaxy had changed, because a human mechanic heard a cry no one else could. Because he didn't. Turn away. Because kindness is louder than silence.